For portfolio here, we're not going to do the entire thing probably, but I'll do sort of the top section so we have a good notion of that. First thing I'm going to do is I've set up a folder for this project. I'm just going to open up a new window. Actually, let me do this from my terminal so you guys can get some mileage out of the terminal stuff I showed you guys. So I'll just go to my Dojo folder, and I'm going to go to stacks, then I've got my web fundamentals stack, and then I'm going to go into my lectures, and I've got this folder called portfolio. So I'm going to say code portfolio. Nice. Opens up the whole folder for me. I have taken the liberty of downloading all those images that they provided in the platform. And then all I need to do is I've got to create these files that we need. So we always are going to need our HTML, right? Index.html. And then probably we're going to need some styles as well. Styles.css. And then inside my HTML file, let's just get some boilerplate stuff up here. I'll call this portfolio. Whoa. Portfolio. And then I want to link this style sheet. Raj, how am I going to do that? Link tag, tab, and then my source is just going to be styles.css. Okay, so I'll just put something on the page so that we know that things are working. I'll say portfolio. Save that guy. Let's go open this in the browser. Oh, where am I? Coding Dojo, stacks, fundamentals, lectures, portfolio, and then we open up this index.html. Cool. Looking good? Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to go there. So what we want to do is we're going to create this layout that has some different pieces to it. I'm thinking we'll just kind of go with whatever the width of this is. Because obviously this thing could expand to the edges, but I'm just going to treat it like, as far as this whole purple background goes, it's just going to be as wide as the actual image here. So if I inspect this, so it's saying here that the normal width of this thing is 970. So I'm going to assume our box needs to be about 970, right? So let's go back in here inside of our styles, and let's just say, let's do our little reset thing before we get into any styling. So I'm just going to say padding is 0, margin 0, and then let's change the box sizing so that it actually goes to the border of each one of our elements. So we'll say border box. Okay, and then down here I'm just going to say my body is going to have a width of 970 pixels, and the margin 0 auto. Okay. Rudy, what's the 0 auto all about? What's this saying here? Yeah, so what does that mean though? When I say margin 0 auto?
Is it preset the sides are going to be matching?
So let's start with the 0. What's the 0 saying?
There is no added space inside.
Well, but in terms of the order, I've got two different values here, right? I've got 0 and auto. So what is the 0 telling it specifically, though? Is that saying I want 0 margins on the sides? Good. Anyone else? No, the 0 is saying I want 0 on top and bottom. Okay? And then the auto is saying I want whatever is available on the sides of this to be distributed evenly. So let's say my screen width is 1200 or something like that, and I've specified a width of 970. That means that leaves me with another 230, right? So it would take that 230 and just split it down the middle and say, okay, put 115 over on the right-hand side and then 115 on the left. So it's basically centering our body on, on the page. Okay, and then we probably want to have some kind of a background for this because I'm seeing that there is a background here. It looks like it's some kind of a gradient though, right? I don't think I'm going to make it a gradient. I'll probably make it just one simple color. And I wouldn't expect you guys to necessarily do that either. Now I got to find something that has a color so I can get that color picker. Oh, I think I found something. Okay, we've got our color picker. Let's go up here somewhere to the background. If I click on that and then click on that, it actually copies it to my clipboard. Thank you, Nick, for pointing that out, even though he's not here. So we'll say the background of this guy will be that. Okay, what else do we need to do? So we've got a section up here at the top which has the person's name and then something over on the right-hand side. So there are a couple different ways I can accomplish this. I'm thinking let's use Flexbox, right? Because it's really nice to use. Okay, so we go up here and let's just create a, instead of this H1 here, let's just create a header section. And inside that header section, I'm going to have a couple things. I'm going to have one thing over on the left, which is the name, and the other thing on the right, which is, I guess, some kind of a slogan. So we'll say H1 here, Jane Doe, and this is maybe an H3, Master of Shadows and the Internet. Wow. Pretty talented. Shadows and the Internet. Whoa, what happened? Okay, cool. So if I look back at my page, okay, I'm getting this background that's actually covering the entirety of the screen. That may not be exactly what I want, right? So perhaps what we could do is we could put some sort of a wrapper element inside this body, which would be restricted by the dimensions that we set. So let's do wrap with abbreviation, and I'll just say div class wrapper. Okay, so now we'll come up here, and after this body, I'll just say I have a class of wrapper, and I'll bring this background down here. Here's a shortcut for you guys. If you hold down your Alt key and use your arrows, you can just move something. And see, it even fixes the indentation for you too. Pretty nice. Let's go back. Okay, that's a little better, right? Now our background's just affecting this width, which is what we wanted. Now the other thing is that it looks like the text or the background of this header section is not that purplish color, right? It's some sort of a light gray. So let's find out what that is. If I hover over this, I'm seeing these F8s here. Go back here and let's actually target our header. So header, oops, keep doing that. Background is that. Check it again. Okay, that's pretty good. It's about the right color. So I want to change my font family to sans serif because it looks like we don't have any serif on this stuff. So I'll put that up here. I could put it in the body. That'll work. Sans serif. Right? And then inside that header, we had the H1. Let's see how this looks real quick. Okay, so the H1's going to be over on the left side, and then the other thing's going to be on the right side. I'm thinking maybe let's give this some padding, because it looks like the text is not really touching the edges on either side, right? So I'm going to say give it padding of 12 pixels. Okay, not so bad. Now, how do I get these guys to sit on the same row? Does anybody remember? So right now they're stacking vertically, right? I've got Jane Doe, and then right underneath is her slogan. How do I get them to spread across the page like that? Yeah, probably we're going to want to flex this whole container up here, that entire header. So by flexing that, it will allow me to push the two containers that are inside it to both side edges, exactly as I want it. So let's do that. Let's say our header is now going to have a display of flex. And then how do I get them pushed to the sides? Anyone remember that? There's one other property we need to apply. It's called justify content. So that's how do we want these flexed items to behave? Do we want them to all be just doing our regular left to right? In which case you would put a flex start value for that. But in our case, we want space between, which is going to push them to the edges. Okay, so justify content, space between. Okay, yes, Sean. I think it's where, from what you're saying, that sort of sounds like trying to sort of inch things right and left, or getting fancy with it. I feel like this way is way more flexible. Yeah, exactly. There's not necessarily a right and a wrong with some of this stuff, but ultimately, if your layout is flexible in such a way that you can make changes to it without breaking a lot of stuff, then you're in pretty good shape. You know? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It could happen. Now, in our case, what I'm noticing here is that this is a little bit up higher than what's on the left. And the reason why that's happening is because we have the same amount of padding all around, which means that because that's smaller, it looks like it's sitting up higher, right? It's just because this is not as tall as that is. So the way that I can fix that, though, we saw that a little bit earlier today when I was trying to vertically align a box in that left sidebar. So we can use this other property when we're using Flexbox called align items. And that allows us to tell it, we want everything to be vertically aligned to the center here. So that way it'll kind of look like they're on the same line. So here, let's say align items, center. Okay, that looks a lot better to me. I think we're in pretty good shape as far as that upper section goes. I guess there is a exclamation point here. There it is. And maybe the padding on the sides is a little bit more than I said it, huh? All right. So if I say 12 pixels, the second value that I provide would be my sides. So the 12 pixels will affect the top and the bottom. Now the second value is going to do left and right. So if I want left and right to be 18 pixels, for instance, I can do that, and that will space it out just a little bit more. That's probably impossible for you guys to even see the background over there, huh? It's like it all looks the same. I assure you there's a background that's kind of subtle. All right, so what do we want to do next? Next, we've got this, this purple background here. which is actually already applied. Does anybody know why we're not seeing it just yet? So the reason why we're not seeing it is because there's no content in there yet. Okay, so don't be alarmed. That's totally okay. Here's how I'm thinking about laying this guy out. I'm thinking, let's have one box that sort of wraps these top two elements. So the actual profile picture, and then all this information over here. And then we'll have another box down below that's going to house those three other boxes, right? And the reason why I want these to be separate things is because I want to be able to use Flexbox to flex across here, and then also flex across the bottom down below. So let's create a couple containers here. We'll say this is top. Actually, I'm just going to call this main. Okay, and then down below I'll have another, we'll just give it a class of container. And then inside that container, it looks like I'm going to have three different divs, right? So I'll do div, I don't know, I'll give it a class of box, and I'll say I want three of those guys. Okay, cool. So my main is going to need to have a display of flex in it, right? And same thing goes with my container. So I can go ahead and apply this down here. I can say main, comma, dot container, which means that I'm targeting two different things here, right? I'm targeting all elements that have are all main tags, and I'm also targeting anything that has a class of container. And I'm saying let's apply a display of flex to that. And what's the other thing I want to apply in order to evenly distribute them right and left? Justify content. Good. So we'll say again, content, whoops, space between. Okay. Now, right now, again, we don't really have any content in there yet, so I'm going to want to put this image in there, right? All right, let's go ahead and do that. In the main, I'm going to create this image tag. Okay, the source is going to be inside my images folder here, and then what is my photo of me.jpg? Okay, so I'm going to go images / photo of me.jpg, and the alt would just be Jane Doe, because that's who this person is. Now I'm also going to give this image a class. So I'll just call this profile pic. And then inside my styles over here, let's create some styling for that. So we'll say dot profile pic. Oops. How wide do we want this to be? Did it specify in the assignment thing here? Not really. So we're just going to have to guess. I'm going to say maybe this is about, I don't know, 350 in width or something. We'll just say 350 pixels. Okay. Cool. Let's just see what this looks like so far. Not so bad, right? I do notice, though, that my background is going to have some padding to it, right? So right now, this profile pic is right up against the edge, but I want to give some padding to the whole container so that these boxes are not touching the edge. And I'm going to say maybe we want padding of about 20 pixels or so, something like that. So where is that? That's going to be inside our wrapper. Padding, 20 pixels. Uh-oh. That's not how we wanted it, right? So what happened? Yeah, the header is actually inside our wrapper, right? How about if I put the header outside of that? Much better. Cool. All right, and then the other thing that we want to do, you can see that this profile image has a little bit of a border around it. So I'm just going to grab this border color, and then let's apply that. So let's say that profile pic has a border that's maybe 3 pixels solid. This color here, this light gray, I think it is. Maybe it needs to be a little wider than that, huh? 5 pixels. That's pretty good. All right. Then we've got this about section over here. Okay. Let's create that. So let's see. All right, I'm going to create div. Maybe we'll give it a class of about. And then here, we're probably going to have to specify some sort of width. Actually, I take that back. We may not have to. The reason why we may not have to specify a width is because the text is actually going to force it to be ultimately as wide as it can be. So we could probably rely on that if we're really lazy. and I kind of am. All right, so here, let's go back to what we have. We're going to have some sort of a header inside there. I'll say that's maybe H4. What was it, like about dot dot dot? Yeah, about dot dot dot. And then after that, I'm just going to have a couple paragraphs of content. So I can say something like P, oh, how do I want to do this? P dot, I want to do lorem times 2. So it gave me 2 paragraphs. I'll just surround these guys with P tags real quick. P, same thing with this one. P. All right, let's take a quick look at this. Okay, now my paragraphs are right next to one another. So Sean had this issue earlier. What was our proposed solution for that? I thought we decided that was no good.
Oh,
What was the other thing that they were talking about? So right now we've sort of removed all margin from everything. But maybe there are some certain things that we do want to have some margin, like a key tag, right? So that way it's spaced out from whatever comes below it. So let's add that back. So in our style sheet here, underneath where we did our resets here, we can just say for a p tag, I want there to be margin bottom of 15 pixels. Okay, that's a little better, right? Now I see that there is some background here as well. Let's apply that. So inside the About section, which we haven't targeted yet, let's do About, and then we'll just say background white. Get that going. Okay. So the other kind of issue here is that these guys are packed tightly together, right? How can I potentially move this away from that over there? We could potentially use calc in some way. Yeah, actually, that could work. What if I just give one of them some type of margin? Like either margin right on this or margin left on that. Either way, that should probably get the job done for us. So let's try it. So for my profile pic, I'm going to say margin right is 15 pixels. Okay, maybe I want more than that. Whoops. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with 20 on that. And you guys can see there's some sort of consistency in some of these numbers. You see how we were using 20 pixels of padding here, and now we're using 20 pixels for the margin. Because all those gutters are of a similar dimension, I think. All right, so that's pretty good. Now the about header probably needs a little bit of love, right? Okay, so that has kind of a fancy looking background. Did anybody know that you can do CSS gradients? CSS gradient generator. Okay, there's actually a website where you can create these gradients here. So if I want it to be, we'll say it's linear, the start number would be what? Start number is that. So I'll just grab this. Oh, I keep doing it the hard way. Let me paste this in. Did that apply? And then I'll just move this to kind of the center point here. Okay, and then my, oh shoot. Move that to 50. I'll move this back to the side, and then this guy at the end I'll set to that same light gray color. Did that apply? Okay, so that applied to light gray, and let's see what the center part of this guy was. There's that. Okay, so let me just click on this, and then we'll change that color, and we should be pretty much good to go. So that's our gradient. And then I want this to be, let's just apply this real quick and see what it looks like. So that was a H4? Yeah, H4. We'll give it this. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, so there's one small issue with the gradient, and it might be impossible to, well, you can probably see it here. We're actually kind of going left to right, but we want the gradient to go top to bottom. So I should be able to change that if I just go back to this little generator here and move this to 0. Let's try that. Whoa. Oh, copy to clipboard. How about that? As you guys can see, I like doing things the hard way. Alright, let's take a look at that. Sweet, that looks pretty nice. So now all we need is a little bit of padding inside this about, right? So that the text is not right up against the walls. Let's apply that. So let's say padding is going to be 10. I'm going to say for top and bottom it's going to be like 13 pixels, and then left and right it will be 10 pixels. Okay, what else do I need to change about? Color, right? Yeah, exactly. Maybe I'll increase the font size slightly. Let's see what the font size is here. So by default, the browser is saying for an H4, the font size is, where's my font size? Anybody seeing the font size? That's super weird. Okay, so if it's not listed there, that probably means it's just the default 16 pixels. So I'll just bump it up a little bit, maybe to like 20 pixels. Okay, and then we want the color to be white. That's looking pretty good. Maybe I made it too big, maybe, looks about right to me, right? Yeah. Okay, and then all we need to do here is we want to apply a little bit of padding to the text down below as well. And it looks like it's exactly the same, right? Here. So I'm thinking padding in that about section. So we'll just create a little wrapper inside here, right? Div, and we'll say class text wrapper. Okay, and then my text wrapper is going to have a padding of thinking 10 pixels. Let's go there. All right, looking pretty good. Then there's this little link down below which says continue reading. We can drop that in pretty easily. So underneath these paragraphs, let's just add an ahref. This href is going to go essentially nowhere. That's what it means when I'm putting in just this hash symbol. It's like it's an inactive link. Continue reading dot dot dot. Whoops. Okay. How can I change this color if I want it to look like the actual wireframe? More than one way to do it, but let's say we'll just give it a class, right? Class equals, I'll call it black link. And then here in my style sheet, I can just say dot black link is color black. All right, not bad, right? We're in pretty good shape. So I say let's not do this entire thing, but let's just create these 3 boxes here. We'll put headings inside them, and then we'll just like give them a height, like the same height for all 3. Because this is enough of a starting point that you guys could pretty easily finish out this assignment, I think. And then we'll see where we're at the end, and I'll just ask you guys, is there anything else in the layout that looks confusing or that you want me to touch on? And we can do it if you want. All right, so we've got these boxes down here. And if I'm looking at the boxes, there's actually something kind of similar about them, or at least according to one style that we've already made. See where I can reuse this guy? Those boxes have the same heading styles, don't they? Yeah. Cool. So that's one style that I don't even need to recreate. It's already there. So let's just create this box style. And then my box style is going to have a background of white so that we can at least see that it's there. Okay, and then here, my container class
I think is all set and ready to go, because earlier I was working on container and I said I wanted to have a display of flex, space between, so it will evenly distribute those boxes out the way that I want them to. Okay, I'm going to set some kind of a height on these boxes as well, so let's say height of, I don't know, 150 pixels. Whoops. Okay, let's see if we're even seeing these yet. Seems like they're there, but we're not seeing the background right now. Sometimes you gotta check this out and see what's going on. So if I go, okay. So the reason why we're not seeing them, as you can see, is that there's no content inside, right? So they're actually, the height has been established, but because there's no width, because there's no content, we're not seeing anything, right? So let's figure out what we want the width to be. So I'm going to say, I want the width to be, I'm going to use that calc function which we've been using before. So I'm going to say calc, we'll say 100%, whoops, divided by 3. And let's refresh. Okay, there are our boxes. So there is a little bit of an issue here. And what is it? Can you guys tell?
There's no margin. So essentially, these two bigger containers are right smack up against one another. So I can either add some bottom margin to the top container or some top margin to the bottom, right?
I'll just add some bottom margin to the top container. And what did we call that? That was called main. So main. I'm not going to put it inside this rule set. Why not? Can anyone tell?
If I put it inside this rule set, what else is it going to affect? It's also going to affect that container right there, which I don't want to do.
So instead, what I'm going to do is right underneath, I'm just going to say main again, and then set some new rule set. So we'll say margin bottom, and I was using 20 pixels all around. So let's do that. All right, looking good. Now, how can I get some margins in between these guys?
Probably the easiest way is to decrease their width, right? So what I'm noticing here is that I've got these gutters that are 20 pixels all over the place. So if I take that into account when I'm doing my calc, that should enable me to sort of shrink their width enough so that it'll leave those 20 pixel gutters. Okay? And then I'm also going to increase the height of these boxes because it looks like they're taller than that.
Okay, so down here in box, let's say the height, whoops, instead of 150, let's change it to 300. Okay. And then I'm going to say, for this one, 100% minus 40 pixels, because I know that I have 2 gutters in there. And then I'm going to take the result of that and divide by 3. Ah, looks great, right? Awesome. So now really all we need to do is just put those headers in there, and we've got ourselves a really nice skeleton for this project. So I've got Lamode, family contacts, and 511. Let's use that same H4 because that's going to give us the styling that we want. H4 Lamode, H4 family contacts. And then finally, H4, 5, 11. I guess that's supposed to be how tall Jane Doe is or something? I don't know what that is. 5'11"? Alright.
You guys feel pretty good about this layout? I feel like we pretty much covered it quite well. All right.
Let's look back at the layout. Let me know if there's anything about the other parts of it. Let me get out of this. Are there any bits about of things going on down below that you feel would be tough to do?
Is this almost at each box that we have? Are they their component as a container?
Yes. So the way that we have it framed right now is that each one of these is a box.
Okay. And then each of the symbols at the bottom are images that we can just put in and align those just like we do the boxes themselves.
Yeah,
In fact, what I would probably recommend for these images is maybe just doing a flex type setup here so that they just flex and then wrap. So there's another property that you can use along with display flex. It's flex hyphen wrap, and then you could tell it that you want it to wrap like that. So that would work. Another thing, maybe I'll show you guys real quick, just so you know about it, is absolute position. You guys come across that in the platform at all?
A couple of times.
Couple times?
I think I kept using the reflective or relative.
Ah, relative. Yeah. So
let's say with these boxes that I've created, what if I wanted to put these buttons down here, but I had like no other content inside there just yet? Let's challenge ourselves to do that real quick.
so let's just put a button down in here. What does it say? La mode. La mode. And I'll give this a class of my button. Okay, let's just make sure this is showing up on the page. Wow, you can barely see it, right? Okay.
But rather than showing up here where it is in the kind of upper left-hand corner, I want to sort of take it out of the basic flow of the page, and I want to instead say, okay, let's put this down here, right in the middle. Let's see if we can do that. So I'm going to use this thing called absolute position. In order for this to work, does anyone know what else I need to do? If I'm going to say that this button is absolutely positioned, what do I have to ensure in order to make that work? I have to make its container relatively positioned. Because if I don't do that, it would essentially keep looking up up our HTML structure for the first thing that is relatively positioned. And ultimately, it wouldn't find anything because I haven't used relative positioning anywhere in this document. Right? So we want to make sure that this specific box, or any of the boxes really, has relative positioning. That way, when we use absolute positioning, it actually works.
So let's go do that. Let's say box is going to have position relative. Okay, and then my button is going to have a position of absolute. Okay, and now I can specify what I want its bottom position to be. So if I say bottom of 0, that should in essence bring it down to the bottom of its container. There we go. All right, and let me change the background a little bit so that it actually looks right. So we'll say background green, give it some padding, 15 pixels. Border radius, I think it had some border radius on that as well, so maybe like 5 pixels on that. Oops. La mode should be in color, white. I'm going to say font size 16 pixels because I think the browser by default shrinks the text size on buttons, so it's a little bit smaller. Let's make it the normal size. Pretty good. Maybe our padding's a little bit too large. Whatever. I'll shrink this down to 10. All right. Now how can we get that guy centered? I'm actually not sure. I dug myself into a hole. Yeah, what if I say left auto? Would that work? No. Center absolute div. How do we do that? Oh, add left 50%. Okay. 50%. Yeah. Wasn't exactly what I was hoping for. So add a negative left margin that is equal to half the width of the element. So then we would have to know what the width of the element was, though. What if I did, I have an idea. What if I created a wrapper that would actually have the absolute positioning? And then inside that wrapper, I would just use text align center. That could work, right? Kind of janky, but what the hey, gets the job done. Yeah, exactly. So we'll just wrap this guy with a div. Okay, and then I'll say the class on this is ABS, just for absolute. And then here in my style sheet, let's go ABS position absolute text align center. Okay, now I can take that out of button and I can say this guy is going to have a bottom of 0. Okay, I'm going to take this out of here. Okay. My text align didn't seem to work though, huh? Oh, the reason why is because this ABS div is not actually as wide as its container. It's only as wide as what's inside it. Okay, which is that button. So I need to just say the ABS div needs to be 100% of its container. Try that. Boom. We've done it. Good job, guys. Any questions? All right now? All right.